Today, only ruins of the Schlieben factory where Morris worked remain. But from 1944, it was one of a chain of forced labor munitions factories across Germany. Schlieben alone produced 1 million anti-tank missiles a month for the German army. Conditions were appalling for the 2,000 Jewish prisoners like Morris working here, with little food or protection against the sub-zero temperatures that winter. Waiting to meet Robert is someone he knows, a Piotrkov friend of his grandfather Morris, who also ended up working at Schlieben.
It's Ben.
Sir Ben Helfgott.
It's amazing to see you. This is you're in Schlieben, yes?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I'm so happy that we are here and I can talk to you about your grandfather.
so how did my grandfather Morris look when you arrived in the camp?
They didn't look like a human being. And I hardly recognize him.
You saw him?
Yes. You cannot imagine how he looked and how hungry when we came, and clothes was falling off from him, and then his eyes were trapped in it, and he lost all of it. He didn't have anybody else.
What was this place? It's nothing here now.
This wasn't like this.
Yes.
This wasn't the worst place that I've ever been.
This is the worst place you've ever been?
Yes, because we were not given any food. And it was colder than here. We didn't have a coat. We didn't have any shoes or anything. And then we worked 12 hours and we didn't have any food. This was the worst. Nothing, just bread and rotten potatoes, and the smells of them. Day after day. It destroys you.
I know. I saw you and him later on in life when there's a buffet, always worrying about us, all our family eating. Now I think I understand why being full, eating is important.
That's right.
Yeah. This is something so extraordinary to me that you have the strength to stand on this ground again. It's something incredibly powerful. Thank you for telling this story. I didn't know what it was like for him to be here. But
that is the most important thing, that you are here and that you hear what happened to your grandfather, because he never talked to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk much about it, but when the time comes, one has to talk, because people should understand what we suffered and what the Holocaust is about. That is the most important thing.
Thank you, Ben.
You don't have to thank me, I thank you.
We should get warm, I think. It's a very difficult thing to hear when he talks physically about how my grandfather looked. Emaciated, and when he touched his eyes and his eyes being sunk in, it's unimaginable. And also being hungry, what they were fed, what starvation was, what it is, what it feels like, and of course what the cold is. It's given me a sense of what it must have been like for my grandfather Morris to be here.
By 1945, with the Russians making advances for the Allies in the east, Morris and his fellow prisoners were transported to the last concentration camp the Germans had, Theresienstadt, in Nazi-controlled Czechoslovakia. Robert has come to the former SS officers at Schlieben, now a memorial museum, to meet historian Christoph Tornfeld.
So do we know the date that my grandfather Morris arrived at Theresienstadt?
We don't have an exact date, but at least we have a document where you can find that your grandfather actually arrived at Theresienstadt.
We can see, look, he's come from Schlieben. Before that, Piotrkov.
Mm-hmm.
That's his birth date?
Yeah.
Well, that's his wrong birth date. According to the census that we saw, he was born in February 1923. Here he's put himself down as the 5th of December 1929.
Mm-hmm.
He's made himself younger.
Usually children would try to make themselves older because old people and children were more likely to be immediately killed in extermination camps. So it's really a bit odd why somebody would make himself 6 years younger at this point in time in a camp.
On the 9th of May 1945, less than 3 weeks after Morris arrived, Theresienstadt was liberated by the Russians. When the Red Cross got there, they discovered more than 30,000 prisoners like Morris, weak from malnutrition and disease. Among them were hundreds of orphaned children with nowhere to go.
So here we have an overview of the underage minor survivors.
He's right at the top, number 148. Complete list of children from the concentration camp. Now this is 1940.
Still 1945.
1945.
Mm-hmm.
So he's born in 23. So he's potentially 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on a complete list of children, which would explain this document here.
Of course.
He must have somehow got information that that it would be beneficial to him.
Maybe that gives him a better chance to get in any kind of recovery program that might be set up after the war.
That August, up to 1,000 Theresienstadt orphans under 16 were offered the chance by a Jewish charity called the Central British Fund to come to the UK.
So this is the list of children who arrived in Great Britain from Theresienstadt.
300 were sent to Windermere in the Lake District, including Robert's grandfather.
Moses Malanicki, birth date 18th. This changed his birth date again.
Yes, yet another birth date.
Do you think, because there's a lot of people born in 1930, if you look, do you see?
That just about makes them underage minors under the conditions of the Central British Fund.
But I mean, in my forensic experience, when I look at this document straight away, and it seems to me that somebody must have perhaps what you might call solicited them to say, just give them a birth date. They're looking for 1,000 children, tell me you're a kid, and you see what I mean? This is a dodgy document.
Okay.
But it's fine.
In this circumstances, dodgy is perfectly fine.
This is a good dodgy. Yeah. From Schlieben to the Lake District in 5 months. I mean, I've been to the Lake District, but not, I think, to Windermere. I think I need to go to Windermere and see.
Oh, it's familiar.
Robert is meeting Harry Spiro, who knew his grandfather Morris as a boy in Piotrków and came over from the Theresienstadt camp at the same time.
Oh, that must be Prague.
That's in Prague, yeah.
Yeah, it must be in Prague.
They're watching footage of the Theresienstadt orphans leaving in August 1945 for their new life in Windermere.
When you landed and you arrived in Windermere, I'm trying to kind of imagine what my grandfather Morris might have felt, first of all. What was your first impression?
Well, the first impression was really unbelievable because we were not used to that people should be nice to us. They knew exactly what we went through. And their aim was really to show us that life is worth living, and all they care is to bring you back to life.
In Windermere, the orphans from Theresienstadt were housed in the Kalgarth estate, originally built for factory workers. It was here they were able to be children again.
And this was a new life for you?
Yes, it was for all of us a new way of life. We never thought that we would achieve what we have. We had each other. We really were like a family.